Today's guest is Nadine Lee, teacher of the feminine tantric arts, feminine embodiment coach, and best-selling author of Sex Priestess. Liberate your eros, embody your feminine power, and become a force of awakening. She is the founder of Tantric Alchemy, a community devoted to supporting you step into the woman you came here to be. She has helped thousands of women over the past 13 years heal sexual trauma and ignite the erotic fire within, and learn how to channel that creative force into the highest creative, feminine, and erotic expression. Nadine offers private mentorship, online programs, and in-person retreats and events across the world. This past year, after publishing her first book, she has seen her quantum leap and impact thousands of women with her work. Welcome to the Dangerous Women podcast, where the intersection of fierceness and femininity fuels empowerment. Our goal is to provide women with insights to unleash their power. Grounded in the 7 principles of self-confidence, we guide women to embrace their duality, delicate as a flower, yet powerful as a bomb. I'm your host, Colleen Conlon, inviting you to join me as we explore topics on health and wellness, empowering you to embody the essence of your dangerous woman. Nadine, what is masculine and feminine energy?
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we can just start by looking at in terms of, it's got a lot to do with gender, but like it actually is beyond gender. So if we look at it in terms of qualities, masculine energetic qualities, you can see those as, like the solar energy, the sun, the fire element, things like the qualities within us and within the universe that kind of embody directness, decisiveness, discipline, integrity, structure, containment, all these sorts of qualities. So, that's not just limited to men. Women have those qualities as well within them, an ability to have discipline in their life, structure, direction, all these things. And then the other side, the feminine qualities are more to do with like the water element, the earth element, and are, the qualities that make up like our creativity, our fluid movement, our intuition, I don't know if I said creativity, our compassion, our heart-centeredness, nurturing, all these qualities. So yeah, both men and women can also have these qualities as well. Obviously, as a female, like a female-bodied being, we have a lot more feminine qualities just by virtue of being a woman and our hormonal makeup and, our cycles that we work with every month, our hormonal cycles. But we also do have some of the masculine qualities as well. And men have obviously, born into a male-bodied being, have those hormonal structures. They have more of the masculine qualities usually, but they also have access to their feminine qualities. So yeah, we have all, but it's really about bringing those two qualities, those two sides of us into balance within.
And something I have noticed in talking to women, especially after the pandemic, and I think there were a lot more women who decided to go into this more masculine type of energy for the sake of survival. It's almost as if becoming the quote unquote boss babe has almost stripped away some of the feminine energy that I've talked about with other women. Why is it so important for women to be able to connect to their feminine energy?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a boss babe. There's a lot of like shame in this now. It's like, as a woman, if you do embody qualities of being a boss, being a leader, that might be what you're here to do as a human is explore that side of you, and you have a big mission. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you feel as a woman that it gets out of balance and you're losing connection to that innate feminine, and it's kind of like more of the masculine qualities are taking over, and it might work for a while, but then it starts to kind of wear your body down, and you might experience things like losing your menstrual cycle,
Hmm.
infertility, lack of orgasms, like just feeling a bit neurotic. Like if you're starting to notice that it's going too far in that extreme where there's like the boss masculine energy is like, yeah, completely overriding and canceling out all of your feminine qualities, then this is where the issues start to arise. So I
Hmm.
want to just bring it back into harmony. And I think you can be a boss babe, but also be very feminine, like
Mm.
you don't have to choose one or the other. It's not like you're either a boss babe or you're like a soft girl sitting at home doing nothing. It's like you can be both,
I love that you say you can be both. Would you say there's any other, common causes as to why a woman might lose the connection to her feminine energy?
Yeah, I mean, just being in living in this society, it's so easy to lose the connection to the feminine, like we live in a world basically designed for men, even just like if you're working in a corporate setting, the whole 9 to 5, 5 days a week, every day you're expected to show up in this same level of productivity. It's suited to men because men's hormones are more flatline and they have a consistent, yang energy throughout the whole month. Whereas as women, we go through cycles each month. So we'll experience, during our ovulation phase, a lot of that yang energy, and we're really productive and really on and switched on. But then once we come into, the menstruation phase, that week around when we're bleeding, like we're not the same. We're not in that like hyper yang, like go, go, go energy. So if you're working in that environment of corporate world, it just forces you to be in your masculine energy. Like there's kind of no excuse to just like take a week off. Like you can, but you'd probably lose your job. You just take 1 week off every month, to be in your yin. But and that's why I feel, that was a big part of why I started in corporate in advertising industry and marketing, and I lasted like 4 years, maybe 3 years. And I just was like, I have to get out of this. I need a lifestyle that supports my feminine being. Like I still want to be a boss and have my own career and be on my mission, but it has to work with my feminine cycle, not like I'm working for like in accordance to what someone else is telling me, when to show up and when to be productive. It's like, no, I need a flexibility, and a lot of more women are, stepping into this, which is amazing, like creating their own jobs, creating their own business, like you work your own hours, and it really supports us to, yeah, be living more in alignment with our feminine cycles, essentially.
I've noticed that as well. I think one of the coolest things about social media is the fact that we get to see all of these women all over the place creating these opportunities for themselves that really do allow them to be both, be in the masculine, be in the feminine, and you don't have to be stuck in just that masculine mode. I love the fact that you say, the world really is working in favor of that masculine energy. It really works well for men. I've definitely noticed that being something that's been spoken about more and more over the past couple of years. For somebody who, they really do want to connect to this feminine energy and they really feel stuck in the masculine right now, are there different strategies that they can take advantage of to help embody that feminine energy?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first step would be to start working with your menstrual cycle. So, tracking your menstrual cycle, becoming more aware of like, when you're ovulating, when you're bleeding, like making that more of a time to actually slow down, and if you can, like take at least the first day of your menstrual cycle. off work. Like when I was working in corporate, I would do that. I would take, my sick days, 1 day a month. The first day, if it fell on a Monday to Friday, I would take that off and just be in my yin, be in that rest, receptivity. Because, even when I went into the office, I was like useless. Like I was not there. Like I was not switched on. I wasn't productive at all. So I kind of just had a really good boss that I just kind of pitched it to him. I was like, look, I need to take every first day of menstruation off. And I feel like this should be a menstruation leave. It's like maternity leave. I feel that should be implemented eventually into the corporate because we need to support women in that way. Yeah, so tracking your menstrual cycle, understanding, I have a whole course on this called the Creatress, which gives you like embodiment practices, rituals, and practices yet to do for each of the 4 phases. So you start to get really familiar with like what's happening in your body. Like you're becoming more embodied, like aware of your body, aware of what's happening every month, like through your cycles. So that's one of the first gateway practices that you can start. And every woman can do this because, every woman like has a womb and is bleeding. Like if, obviously some people don't have, they might have had their womb removed or whatnot, but you can still work with the energetic womb if you don't have a womb, if you had to get it removed for whatever reason. And you can work with the moon cycles, like
Mm.
so you can still work with that 28-day cycle because it still is going to be affecting you because of your hormones. So yeah, working with your menstrual cycle. And then I would next suggest, yeah, some of so connecting with your womb, menstrual cycle, and then sacred sexuality practices. So starting to, bring in like a conscious self-pleasure practice, like really bringing your attention out of your body and pulling it, directing it, and bringing awareness all towards your yoni, like your sex centers and your sexuality. And this is really that the path of, the feminine, which is the descent from the mind into the body, into our womb, into our yoni, into that, the portal of creation. And not just, yeah, going about life like not being aware that we have this like power between our legs, like, and our womb, it creates life. And when we can start to bring awareness to that, we start to really embody what it means to be a woman and the feminine principle, which is the creator.
This was a totally new concept to me about a year ago, everything that you're just saying. Initially, my thought, around sex was, it's fun. It can be pleasurable. I have a history of having pain with sex, so sometimes like sex would just turn into like this fast food type of experience for me and my partner. And the fact that you talk about there being this, conscious element, this opportunity to, regardless of having a partner, even from like a self pleasure perspective, there's a way you get to connect to your divine feminine by having a sexual experience is so interesting. I felt was so interesting because I had never heard that before. So can you dive a little bit deeper into that? Maybe for somebody who has like a fast food mindset around sex and this is brand new to them.
Yeah, I mean, the tantric kind of view of sexuality is really a gateway into liberating you and, reaching higher states of consciousness. So if you see sex from that lens, it's not just about like genital friction and getting off and even just making a baby, like for procreation purposes. Obviously, that's the primal aspect of the sex act, but like how many times are we making a baby in our whole lifetime of having sex, with a partner? If you're married for like your whole life, you make maybe like three-ish, like on average, children. So there's so many other times you're having sex. It's not about making a baby. That's not the purpose of it. So what is the purpose? Is it just, yeah, to get off? Like, obviously it's about sharing love and intimacy. This is also another aspect of it. But then there's also this other realm where you can use it as a way, like a prayer, you know, in order to like reach higher states of consciousness and connect to your divinity. And this is really the tantric path. So even just like shifting your mindset in that way, it really takes it from just being sex to sacred sex. Yeah. And I think that will shift a lot of people's perspective, like of, you know, seeing your body as this temple that it is. So you don't just let anything and anyone enter into a temple, you know, like there's certain requirements that have to be taken place in order to enter into a sacred place, you know, like an actual physical temple. Even like how they have, you know, guards, like the lions always at the entrance of a lot of these
Mm,
like temples, and you know, all different like what is it, like, yeah, like beings that kind of ward off negative energies. That's always usually at any temple doorstep. And our body is also a temple, you know, it is this sacred vessel that holds our spirit, holds the divine. So when you start to view your body like that, you don't let anything and anyone enter. And
mm.
it's just this like, oh, I just need to get off, and like anyone will do just to fulfill that purpose. Like that, it doesn't, like your whole mindset shifts from that to something much deeper. It's like this is a full energetic merging of auras, of body, mind, spirit with another being. We're sharing energy, we're sharing DNA, we're sharing like all our karma in this exchange in our auric field. So yeah, you start to see it from a whole different perspective and choose wisely who you share that energy with, because it is so powerful.
And that perspective has actually been around since the beginning of time. Can you give us a little bit of like a history lesson as to where this stuff comes from? You know, right before we hopped on this call, we had a conversation, not even so much a conversation, me just like telling Nadine how much I appreciate her and her book. There's this whole piece on the history of Mary Magdalene and the role that she plays from the perspective that Nadine has to share versus the perspective that I grew up. If you know me, you know I grew up very conservative, very strict Catholic background. And seeing these different perspectives is just very eye opening to understand, you know, the basis of using sex to connect to something higher. It's not just about procreation, it's about being able to connect to the conscious self.
Yeah, yeah. I feel as though, like, speaking of religion, you know, I don't practice Catholicism or Christianity at all, but like I do know of the whole like no sex before marriage thing. And like I feel that that is an essence of what I'm talking about, is like the sacredness of the sexual union, you know? So it is weaved in a lot of the religions, just the sacredness of sexuality. Like I don't know the full like deeper unraveling, but like the deeper meaning of that, why Christians practice that. But I have a sense that it is honoring the sacredness of sexuality, you know, and not with all the shame and all the stuff that comes with religion, like taking all that stuff out. But I feel the essence of it probably was meant to be, yeah, honoring the sacredness of sexuality. And yeah, and with regards to like Mary Magdalene and Jesus, you know, like I first learned about this. Well, I had a feeling of it, like I had, you know, intuitions around it. But then when I read the book, the Magdalene manuscripts, which is like a channeling of this of Mary Magdalene, a man, Tom Kenyon, he's the man who wrote this or channeled this book. He was like completely not spiritual at all. He was actually a scientist, like didn't believe in any of this stuff. And he just started channeling Mary Magdalene. And he was like, what the hell? Like, you know, and so he wrote this book, and every cell of my body was just like remembering and getting so activated reading this. And it's not based on facts. It's, as I said, it's a channeling. So it's like really like, you know, there's no like scientific evidence or proof that what he's talking about is real, but like same with the Bible, you know, like so much of that we don't know is real. It's like so many of these things that come out, it's like, how do we know where it really came from? So it's really about going by if it resonates for you. And this book really resonated for me and was talking about Mary Magdalene being the tantric like lover of Jesus, and that they had this very powerful union, and through their sexual energy and sexual exchange, you know, she was helping him train his car body, they talk about, which is really his auric field, in able to ground his mission, like the teachings of Christ consciousness on the planet. So it was through their sexual union and their sacred union that they were in was really key for Jesus to do what he came here to do. Like it was that the sexual energy and the union and the love and the eros that merged with the feminine that helped him ground Christ consciousness and become this full-on movement that's still going today. So that really really resonated for me, and I see that as like, you know, just the essence of that is really the power of the sacred sexuality in between a man and a woman. So yeah, the woman really being that like connection to the earth, connection to the body and the eros, and her helping the masculine like ground consciousness into this third dimension so it can be like manifested here on earth, not just staying up in pure consciousness.
I have to
So
pause you for a second. What, for our listeners, what is Eros?
so eros is like, so there's logos and eros, like the opposite. So logos is more to do with the mind, like logic, and you can see that as more like the masculine realm, consciousness, and then the eros is more like the feminine realm, the body, sexuality, the connection to sex and love. So I feel that's more the feminine realm is the
Mm. What would life be like if you could get that toned look? You could have physical superhuman strength by training with just 2 kettlebells at home. What would happen if you were on a program that strengthens self-awareness and courage so that you can develop a deeper connection and trust to self? What about this? What if you could be in a community with other women where you are encouraged to be assertive and resilient to build mental and physical strength? If you're waiting to hear what the offer is, this is it. Swing to Snatch, a 13-week kettlebell intensive, is my signature course that empowers women to get started with kettlebells. Work with me live in a virtual container guaranteed to grant you kettlebell queen status. To learn more, visit www.colleenconlon.com. And are there other examples, like other than Mary Magdalene, where we see this work of the divine feminine energy coming up throughout history and playing a very powerful role?
Yeah, like throughout so many the ancient civilizations, I feel it was always like men and women in union together, you know, in harmony. Like there was always like a male and female consort, you know, it was like Isis and Osiris, or like, you know, even like all the Greek gods and goddesses. I can't remember, I can't think of any names, but like so many of the mythologies and the gods and goddesses and these stories we look to, even like all the Hindu goddesses, it's like Shakti and Shiva, like Kali and Shiva, Vishnu and Saraswati, you know, it's like there's always a pair of
Mm.
masculine and feminine, like it's the two working together and they kind of need one another in order to fulfill the mission. And of course, we have man and woman, but we also, it's also symbolizing like that inner merging of the inner masculine and feminine as well within us.
Mm.
So it's important to understand that, like we have to also merge those two within, and then also like without, like with a partner.
So to be able to find it within ourselves is going to help create balance. And then if we're able to do that with our partner, there's just even more balance, is what it sounds like. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because if we haven't come into that inner union first, then we're always going to be kind of grasping out to the
Mm.
external partner to fulfill this part of us that's lacking. So, you know, if you are a woman and you haven't developed any of your masculine qualities at all, like you're just kind of floating around life and like have no direction, no structure, no discipline or anything like this, you're going to really look to men to fulfill that for you. And it's very like kind of dangerous because like what about
Mm.
when he leaves? then you're kind of fucked. Like, like, and it's the same for men, like they need to also cultivate a lot of those feminine qualities, like the ability to take care of themselves and nurture themselves, like know how to like, yeah, like nurture and love themselves, like bringing that compassion for themselves, because again, if they don't have a woman in their life, then they're going to be really kind of just not be able to function properly,
Mm.
or they'll project, or they'll just be constantly looking for like a mother. And the
Oh
woman,
gosh, we don't want that.
yeah, and women are always looking, like they're essentially projecting a father like onto every man. So if we can cultivate those two, like a woman cultivates the inner masculine, inner father within her, and then a man cultivates his inner feminine slash inner mother, then when we come to a relationship, we're two adults, and it's more of a co-creation energy versus like codependent energy.
Mm.
You still need each other. There's still qualities, obviously, that, are complementing. It's not like you don't need a man anymore, you don't need a woman, but you're coming at least with something like you're coming as a whole being. You're not coming as like a third of a being and trying to use someone else to fulfill all these parts of you that you can easily cultivate within yourself as an adult.
Yeah.
So
I think it's so dangerous when we, become codependent and I think there's a lot of us who maybe there's been periods of time where we have been codependent or we're not even aware that we necessarily are. There's so much power when we're able to take the time to work on ourselves, heal our past trauma so that we can bring so much more to our own lives and then be able to share so much more with the partner or partners that we choose to bring in.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
How can a woman, and I know we've already kind of touched upon this, but I want to ask the question more specifically. How can a woman use her sensuality and her ability to have conscious sex to connect to her higher self and empower herself to show up more confidently?
It's really about coming into right relationship with your sexuality as a woman. And what I mean by that is not using it as a way to seek love and approval and validation from the outside world. So a lot of women, if we haven't done that healing, like a lot of our father wound healing actually, and healing our inner child and even like healing sexual traumas, you know, we're going to be, if we haven't done this healing, then there's going to be this tendency to seek validation through our sexuality and use sex in order to gain love. So giving it out so easily and thinking that that's what will get us a boyfriend or a man that will love us. So if we can do this healing work, then we kind of can start to move into a sexually sovereign place. So where what that means is like you're not needing the outside to validate you, or you don't even need like the outside to help you to feel turned on. Like you're already feeling turned on from within, like you're self sourcing your erotic energy. So, and that I feel is what cultivates more confidence, in a woman is when she's not needing validation from the outside world. It's just like sexual energy is running through her. It's not like it's shut down at all. It's actually running strong, but it's like contained. And it's, again, like seeing it more in that sacred perspective and not just giving it out easily. She doesn't need to give it out in order to like get love. It's like that's not in her reality. So yeah, it's really important to do that inner healing work around, the father wound, sexual trauma if there was any, and the inner child.
It seems like so in order to achieve all of the magic that can come from sex, we really do have to do some inner work first. You have to heal if you're going to feel all of the good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Because, if we've got all these suppressed emotions within us and unresolved childhood wounding and all these things, all of that manifests as like stuck emotional energy. And that's what clogs up like the orgasmic potential. Like it
Hmm.
actually like creates numbness in your body. And that's what's really going to be blocking you from feeling, yeah, the ecstasy of sex and like the moving of the sexual energy from your sex center up into your higher states of consciousness, like into your heart and into your third eye and crown, and so we need to, yeah, that's why I always teach emotional alchemy and the purification processes first before, like, when clients come to me and women come to me wanting to have more orgasms, it's like we have to do that work first, like clear out the pipes, like clear out what's blocking it. And that's usually stuck emotional energy.
Mm.
It's really important to do that before.
I love that you say that. And I think sometimes, I don't know, have you ever had anybody who's come to you to say, like, it's just like a hard concept to grasp, like being able to, connect to self and work through these things? It can be almost like kind of hard because it's not necessarily like a tangible thing that you can touch in terms of like doing the healing with it. Like for somebody who is like kind of resistant to this is not their first step. So in that case, where do they go first? Or actually, because you have all these different offerings, is there something for somebody who might be a little bit more resistant to check out first?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I would suggest, like the things for women, such as working with your menstrual cycle,
Mm,
starting into your body more, bring more body awareness. For so many years, I was walking around like I was not aware of my physical body. Like
mm,
I obviously felt I had a body, but like I didn't even breathe all the way down into my belly. It was just like breathing up here, like shallow, and most like up into the chest. And most people, that's how they breathe. So the breath isn't even bringing awareness into the deeper parts of your body. So yeah, that's really the foundation, is starting to breathe deeper, bring more awareness into the lower parts of your body, like the sex center, your womb, the menstruation process. This is such a powerful gateway for women to get out of the head and into their body. So, yeah, I would suggest that, and starting with that if all of this is like too much.
I think that's incredible that you have to say that because it's so like it is so simple what you are suggesting. Start getting more connected to your body. You can start with something as simple as breathing. I was going for a walk at some point this past year and I just like had this aha moment, which, sounds kind of silly when I say it out loud, but I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, all of the power is already in me to have this incredible life. And it's just a matter of figuring out what are the simple things that I can do to unlock it for myself, to be able to connect to something deeper, to be able to connect to yourself. It's not necessarily about, spending all this money on, the wardrobe, the makeup, like these things that I think, it's kind of an example of like female toxicity. Not to say it's just like a female thing, it could be a male thing as well, but like this idea that I need to buy, I need to purchase, I need to get these things in order to feel like fulfilled. All of this magic is in yourself if you understand how to connect to it. And I think for people who are listening to this episode, like Nadine is really somebody who could help you to connect to this magic that's already within the self.
It's really quite simple. And I feel, the tantric practices and path is really about that, like self-sourcing, like the whole pranayama, like breathing practices, and even a lot of the yoga, that we do. It's all about creating this clear channel so the breath can flow freely through you, so your prana, your life force, can flow through freely through your entire system. And that's when you really start to feel alive and like vibrant and youthful and radiant, because there's no blocks. And it's like all these emotional blocks and stagnations in our physical body, our emotional body and energetic, that age us and make us feel like lethargic and all these things. So yeah, it really just comes down to clearing out these stagnations in the physical, emotional, and energetic bodies.
So then for the people who are not at all resistant, they're just like, oh my gosh, like Fuck yes, more please, Nadine. Like, what could they do right now that might be like some low-hanging fruit potentially before, necessarily wanting to dive a little bit deeper with you when you're talking about, maybe somebody doesn't already have a self pleasure practice, but they're on board with the breathing, they're on board with like I feel connected, like I am here. What could their next step be to feel more connected to embodying their femininity?
Okay. Yeah, so I would start with like going deeper into, so if you're working with your menstrual cycle, the next thing would be starting to look at in your premenstrual phase, what are some of the emotions that are arising then, and working with going into those emotions, like feeling those emotions, expressing those emotions, moving those big emotions through your body.
How do we
Because
do that? Are we like journaling? Are we dancing? What are we doing?
I would suggest more of a somatic practice. So, I have a process called emotional alchemy. I talk about this in the book and teach it in like all my programs. Actually, it's like a foundation. So, expressing, sounding, breathing, moving through core emotions such as like fear, anger, sadness, grief. And so, like, for example, with fear, I would suggest shaking, like shaking your body, like putting on some music, like tribal music, drumming, shaking your entire body, shaking this is such a foundation thing that most animals do to release fear from the nervous system. And then anger, this is a stronger one. Obviously, it's good to be kind of held space for if you're doing this for the first time, like, beating a pillow, screaming into a pillow, moving some of that big energy. And then grief, is just like crying, opening your bodies, trying to stay open. So the reason I suggest this is because, yeah, like, there's the feminine realm is really the realm of the unconscious and of the body. So to go deeper, it's really about becoming more emotionally attuned and emotionally intelligent and knowing how to move energy in motion through your body, emotions. So it's not just like a mental process, it's not mindset, it's not journaling, it's like embodiment, like moving big energy through your body. And this helps you, yeah, clear that channel. And also just, I feel like just as a woman, be more grounded because I feel like if we're not grounded as a woman, like we're not in our true feminine, like the feminine energy is grounded. Like it's very of the earth, it's of the body, it's grounded. It's not flighty and all like brrr, like up in the mind. It's in your body. And so to be in your body, you have to be able to feel big emotions because like you're going to be feeling a lot when you start to descend into the body because there's a lot of stuck energy that's stored in our body, in all of our bodies. So yeah, learning how to navigate that through these somatic practices that I teach a lot of, and it should be taught in, if anyone's teaching feminine embodiment, like that should be a core foundation is somatic work and emotional alchemy practices so you can actually be in your body.
So, for somebody who's listening to this and is like, I need to get on it ASAP, what would you suggest their first step be in terms of working with you?
Yeah, well, I would suggest first I have online courses that are available. They're like self-paced courses. The Creatress is for conscious menstruations. That's a really good foundation. Pleasure Principles is more for, it's a self-pleasure practice course. It's foundation tantric arts for women. So that would probably be like the second step. And we do some emotional release somatic work in that. So those would be the ones I would suggest for the women. And I also offer a one-on-one mentorship. And I'm about to start a membership actually in the next month. So that's going to be coming out, yeah, pretty soon, which will be monthly sessions that I'll hold on Zoom. And then there'll be like a membership portal with all the previous classes from, the entire time together for you to access at any given time.
This all sounds really juicy.
Yeah.
As we get ready to wrap things up, Do you have any final words to share with the women who are trying to do more work to embodying their feminine energy?
Yeah, so I think it's not about like trying, it's more about, or like working at it, it's more about just relaxing into your true nature, like
Mm,
having a mindset shift. Like it's not this hard work thing you've got to like achieve in order to be feminine, it's like bring in the masculine. So just taking that pressure off yourself. And there's no right or wrong way. There's no right or wrong expression of femininity either. There's so many different expressions. So your way is your way, but just knowing like at the core, it's really just about getting out of your head and into your body.
thank you. Thank you for listening to the Dangerous Women podcast. If you had any groundbreaking takeaways from today's episode, please tag us on social at the Dangerous Women podcast. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe below.